Let's get to the report card. Defensive line. Let's start with the guys up front, the big uglies. How did they do, Caleb?
Defensive line gets an A+. That was the best unit of the day. I mean, again, they held UAB to 8 rushing yards through 3 quarters. Need I say more about the defensive line on that?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. Yep. Linebackers, I would have to give an A. Your thoughts?
Really? I'm going C+ because I thought their third down pass defense was still bad. And the coverage issues are still there with stopping the run. You're right. Maybe I could go B- with linebackers.
Okay. Well, you write it, so you do what you want.
I hash it out with you, so you know.
I mean, I thought the Beasley touchdown was significant. I guess I still kind of consider Boo Carter a little bit of a linebacker in the 4-3 look. Maybe I shouldn't, but I thought they were better than a C in that range.
All right, you know what? The Beasley touchdown, you got me B-. I'll up it to a B-. I'll keep it above average. How about that?
Okay, I can go with that. All right, defensive backs. I know you've been highly critical of them. Your thoughts on Tennessee's defensive backs in the report card?
Yeah, I give them a B-. Now, the Turrentine interception, I thought the starters played fine, but when I grade people, I grade them throughout the whole game. And, you know, when they put the backups in mop-up duty, they gave up a lot of yards late. So because of that, it's B-. But it wasn't like they gave up anything critical. But it's
I would at least grade them on a curve, though, wouldn't you? I mean, you're talking about late in the fourth quarter?
I would also grade them on a curve the other way because they're playing UAB.
Okay. That's fair. All right. Let's get to the offensive side of the report card brought to you by Sports Treasures in North Knoxville. Over 5 million Sports Treasures, 30 seconds with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, off the Hook Sport.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
All right, Caleb. So, and thank you, Lindsay, for saying great point, Dave. I'm glad to do that. That's what I'm here for. Smash the like button, says General Ursus. Yes, do that. Go ahead and like the Vols after they won 56-24 over UAB in a game that wasn't close, but in the game that they showcased some different skill sets, which I think will be significant, maybe as early as this weekend against Mississippi State. All right, so offensive line. I know you're very high on Lance Hurd. Does that mean you're an A across the board, Caleb?
I'm an A+.
Yeah,
I'm an A+ on the offensive line. I mean, they were superb. I can't say, yeah, I was high on them across the board. Lance Hurd was almost a default. Like, I had to pick somebody, but he has been the best lineman, so that's why I named Lance Hurd as the torchbearer. But, like, I'm an A+ on them across the board. They were perfect today.
Yeah, I thought there was one bust where somebody came free to Joey Aguilar, and he was forced to run outside.
Where he rolled out?
Yeah, but, I mean, that's one bust in the entire game. That's perfectly fine. So Lindsay has their grades up there, so we'll take a look at those. But let's turn to Tennessee's quarterback position because I want to hold on the running backs for a second. Quarterback, I thought, was an A. They didn't need it to be an A, but it was today. And I will put more in Joey Aguilar's interception than you will, perhaps, Caleb, as I thought he did try to force that in there to Chris Brazel, and it ended up going off Brazel's shoulder pad and was intercepted. But again, that's nitpicking. And then at the end of the day, Josh Heupel could say on Monday it's not his fault, and I would believe him.
I'll go A- for quarterback because of two things. Again, I grade across the board. I'll give you maybe Joey Aguilar shouldn't have forced that interception. He also didn't really miss, but I think he could have thrown a couple of deep shots from Mike Matthews that could have been thrown a little bit more catchable in the moment. And the biggest one, though, is highly underrated. Jake Merklinger played so poorly coming off the bench. I have to knock that play a little bit for that. He was not good in mop-up duty.
Yeah, and did you notice this, too? The Matt Stinchcomb saying, boy, they are really high on this guy before he threw a pass. That, to me, is coming straight from Tennessee's coaching staff in hopes that Merklinger doesn't transfer following.
I think you're right. I think you're totally right.
That's plain politics. That's clearly what that was. No question about it. Now, Orange Blood saying that's a Nate talking about Joey Aguilar's interception. Said not his fault. Not at fault interception. I don't know. We got a new stat we're going to bring up. All right. So Tennessee's running backs, they're an A. I mean, again, I mentioned the numbers across the board. 11 carries, 81 yards for Peyton Lewis, 9 carries for 59 yards for Deshaun Bishop, 9 carries for 51 yards for Star Thomas. And I'll credit UAB to some extent. I thought they defended the run fairly well. So to me, it was a situation in which Tennessee maximized runs. I'm using the eyeball test here, but I thought they maximized runs. I didn't see yards that were left on the field. And I think Tennessee's three-headed monster at running back can be incredibly good this year, way better than I thought. I started this year thinking Lewis would be the answer. Bishop would be a guy that's just around, and that Star Thomas was an unknown. Now I feel like I know these guys pretty well, and they're averaging 7.4 yards per carry, 6.6 and 5.7 against UAB, and I think they'll be very good.
You and I are on the same page. They're an A to me too. If Peyton Lewis doesn't drop that touchdown pass, the clear as day screen where he has nothing but green in front of him, it's an A+. But even with that drop, collectively they rushed together for those three alone had 191 yards on the ground. And then you add Star Thomas's 17-yard touchdown reception. They combined for those three combined for 5 touchdowns and 208 yards total, all-purpose yards from scrimmage. Add Dwayne Morris, by the way, who looked pretty good in mop-up duty with 7 carries for 38 yards. And he had a long touchdown run called back by an unnecessary holding, or a long run that would have put almost a touchdown. But look, I'm with you. Running backs get it, clear A.
All right, special teams.
We got to do receivers and tight ends first.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot receivers and tight ends.
Dave hates the receivers. He wants to go back. He wants to go back to 1980s football, ground and pound. Receivers get an A. I mean, if we can debate that Chris Brazzell drop that should have been a PI call that you think is more on Joey Aguilar forcing it. That either way, I think that's a nitpicky for me to keep it from being an A+. And then tight ends, I give him an A+. I thought Miles Kitzelman had 2 great catches. I thought they were great in pass pro all night too, or all day.
And then the kicking game. Sorry.
Yes, kicking game. Return game is a C+. Dwayne Morris and Boo Carter both had good returns, but once you fumble a punt, that's all. The most important thing in returns in the return game is to not fumble a return, right? More than just have a good one.
Yes. No, I agree. You fumble a return, that automatically, at best, you're going to do a C in my book. All right, so let's get to coaching.
Well, place kicking is an A+. I wanted to add that, and punting is an A. But yeah, return game is C. Coaching, I think offensive play calling, A+. I didn't have any problem with offensive play calling. Did you?
No, I would go coaching was an A across the board just because they were willing to get away from their usual bag of tricks, which is Joey Aguilar throwing left, right, deep, short, everywhere. And they were willing to rely on their defense and running game to not ground it out. It sounds weird to even say that, but you know what I'm driving at.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. And that's why I would give it an A across the board, and particularly A+ for offensive coordinator. And on my defensive play call, and I'm going to go A-. I think it was fine until the end when they kind of let him get way too many garbage yards. Honestly, that's not Josh Heupel doesn't usually like to do that. So Tim Binks doing that is why it's an A-, but they were fine when they needed to be.
All right. And then overall 56-24 probably shouldn't have been that close. I give Tennessee an A.
I'm mad. They cost me money. I'm going B+. I had them covering.